Today's episode of Professor Oddfellow's Penetralia is brought to you by Obiobizis Balloons. It's very hard to find a black cat balloon in a dark room, especially if it isn't there. Put one there. Obiobizis Balloons. Ask for them by name. If your magic is going gray, make a declaration of interdependence with Dark Bright Hair Dye by E. Kaching. Hear yourself as ghosts hear you with the Spirit Gramophone. Late snack? Try a delicious cremated steak at Ghoulies Coffin. Nuage Noir Couture, the only fashionable way to flatter your silhouette, literally. And Splotch's Fountain Pens, because an ink blot tells 1,000 words.
And we're back. The answer to this week's trivia question about where we can find the Kabbalistic Tree of Life in our local playground was a bit tricky, and ironically left most of you in the shade. For we must look down to see the Tree of Life represented in chalk as hopscotch. Oh, it's time for the mailbag. Jesse of Nothing, Arizona asks, would you now tell me exactly how to seek and attain my own magical vision? The vision of my own special place in the world. Jesse, as the Burgermeister Eugene taught, no one can tell anyone how to attain one's own vision. No one can tell us how to travel a deeply personal path. One can only raise the question, not answer it for another. Jesse follows up, well, what point is there in raising a question that can't be answered? Jesse, to quote Eugene in detail, unanswerable questions point us to the real mystery of life. And one of those mysteries has always been the mystery of receiving a vision of one's place in life itself. We can't compel such a magical vision into existence. We may be able to buy grimoires, but we can't purchase the vision that will guide us to use them wisely. No act of will, no act of effort can bring this vision to us. All we can do is use the tools for seeking our vision and wait. We must wait for a vision that may never come. But for the person who waits, the act of waiting itself comes to have an inner meaning, a spiritual dimension. The one who seeks and waits for a magical vision is not the same person as the one who is concerned merely with how magic works. The one who seeks and waits for a vision, for an inspiration, understands the deep sense of what it has always been to follow a craft. At first, as we actively daydream and cultivate visual images to form in our minds, we must be satisfied with partial visions, with mere glimpses, and sometimes these seem essentially negative. For instance, we see other wizards' attitudes and slowly begin to realize what we don't want to be. And in the process, the rough lines of a sense of who we are begin to appear. Not a full vision, but a partial one. To look at these things, to really look at them, to ask these questions of ourselves, requires great dedication. All crafts require great dedication. And if you don't have that kind of energy to give, or if you don't want to make the necessary sacrifices to give it, perhaps you should look for a related path, like collecting magic wands. Collecting ritual objects is a wonderful hobby, though not a craft. Will you make the requisite sacrifices? And if you do, in what spirit will you make them? Trusting one's own vision, even when it is a partial vision, is one of the most difficult things for all of us to do in life. Thank you, Burgermeister Eugene, and thank you, Jesse, for helping me to keep Eugene's credos alive. See you next time in Professor Oddfellow's Penetralia.